After months of uncertainty and several delays, European lawmakers have approved a trade deal with the US with conditions. 417 of the 642 EU Assembly members backing that deal, lawmakers calling for safeguards as they're concerned Washington may not abide by the deal struck in Scotland last year. The agreement still needs to go through a final vote expected only after April or May. Well, let's get details from William Denselow. Will is covering the story for CNA from Brussels. Now, Will, the European Parliament is giving that green light to the US trade deal with conditions. What are they?
Joe, that's absolutely right. Bernd Lange, the chair of the International Trade Committee, has described this deal as unbalanced, but he says that this safety net that MEPs have unveiled is desperately needed. Looking to what exactly they are, well, it includes a sunset clause. This trade deal is expected to expire March 2028 unless the two sides extend it. A sunrise clause, which means that it won't come into effect unless the US upholds its end of the agreement. Things like lowering tariffs on goods that contain less than 50% steel and aluminium products down to a 15% duty. Also, significantly, a potential suspension. If the Trump administration were to threaten tariffs in the future, the EU would have the right to pull out of the agreement. Now, MEPs also calling for the European Commission to have safeguard mechanisms in place should there be a surge in imports coming from the US.
At this stage, we have received reassurances from the US that they intend to honor the deal. Let me be clear on one thing. While we will continue our efforts for maintaining constructive relationships and avoid volatility, we will not turn a blind eye to any risks of our interests. The Commission will remain vigilant, ready to defend in European interests whenever necessary.
Now, the US had been pushing for a quick resolution after this decision to ratify the deal had been delayed several times so far this year. On the announcement of this vote, the US in a statement says that it will deliver stability and predictability.
There's still somewhat of a long road ahead for that deal, a few more hoops to jump through. Can you take us through those?
Joe, that's absolutely right. It still needs to get the blessing of EU member states. The Commission and Parliament all need to approve on joint communique, the language of this, to get it across the line. Now, we've heard from the S&D group, one of the major political parties in the Parliament. They say that this decision to ratify today is by no means a green light. They say they want to see these firm guarantees remain as part of any kind of final agreement with the US. A little bit of reaction from some industries has been coming through. It has been heralded by the EU spirits lobby, but they say they want to continue to push for zero. So essentially unhappy that 15% duties on EU spirits remain in place, but they say that any kind of stability is welcome at this point. We have heard from the US calling for the various EU institutions to come up with a quick decision, urging them to think about their future and the future of a trade relationship that accounts for roughly 30% of global trade.
Always appreciated, Will. Thank you so much. Will Denselow there reporting for CNA from Brussels.